Yes, welcome to the No Say Project, live Wednesday, June. Let me take a look over here. It is June 14th. It is episode 23 of the No Say Project, live here for Wednesdays, commercial free for your listening pleasure. And I'm glad to be with you here today, and we should have a live broadcast on Saturday. So I know I've been going out of town a lot, but I will be doing a live broadcast from the fortified compound in California. But today we're live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. Glad to be with you. The number, if you would like to call into the big broadcast today, let me see, make sure everything is working fine here. Everything was working fine before, but yeah, it looks like everything's just fine. Okay, so you want to call into the big broadcast today. It's 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399. The passcode 2020 with the pound sign, 2020 and the pound sign, or the hashtag will get you in. You can also instant message me at Skype, and my address is Frank Rizzo 3. And a lot to get to today. But got to remember to, if you are in Arizona, you're going to be in Arizona at the end of July. We are going to have the Jackalope Fest, the 6th annual Jackalope Fest, Jackalope Freedom Festival, and it is at jackfest.rainberry, and that's Rain, R-A-Y-A-N-N-E, Berry. You could just look up Arizona Jackfest, and it's going to be from July 31st to August 6, 2017. Free camping, vending, there'll be speakers. So if you're going to be in the area, even if you can make it just one day, and if it's that one day, let it be Saturday, because I will be there all day, well, most of the day for Saturday. Hopefully Calvin will be there. We'll be doing another live well, not live, but we'll be recording the broadcast. One of the things we talked about last year, which was great, was Joe in Hawaii had gotten marijuana charges thrown out. That was a fun show. So if you haven't seen that, check it out at markstevens.net. It's also on my YouTube channel, which hopefully we will be broadcasting this show. We'll be doing a live video stream on YouTube by next month. So hopefully that happens and no more of this Ustream crap, because Ustream sucks. So just know if we have any technical issues here on the live broadcast, we won't have those issues on the video cast, or the podcast that we get up at markstevens.net. My website, the YouTube channel is No State Project, so it's youtube.com/No State Project, all spelled out. So, actually haven't done what we did this morning in a while. It'd been at least 6 months since I've done one of these. And it was an IRS hearing, and yes, you have to put quotes around the word hearing, because it was not a hearing in any real sense of it. There was what you call these collection due process hearings. It's right in the title what it's supposed to be, but it's completely lost on these domestic terrorists called the Internal Revenue Service. And yes, when you use violence to bring about political change, terrorism. Yeah, I know. It's legal for them. Legal terrorism. However you want to phrase it, it's terrorism. No matter how you cut it, terrorism. And so back in 1997, 1998 era, there were a lot of hearings going on about serious IRS abuse. I mean, above and beyond the typical abuse that these predators are known for. So they came out with Section 63330. What came out to be 63330 is part of what the Restructuring Act of 1998 was about. And so a few of the things that came out of that was that before the IRS could just take your property, they had to give you a hearing. Now, keep in mind, for you sovereign citizen patriot types, the common law remedy was to let them steal your stuff, and then you could, if you had anything left, you could sue for a refund. That was the common law remedy. So before you start championing the common law. So what they did, because of such abuse, which now 20-something years later, it's coming back as far as the forfeitures that they're trying to get it so that you have to have a hearing and or some places a conviction before they steal your property. So it took me working with a lot of people since, this came out when I was working with people. The days before Adventures in Legal Land, all that stuff that went into Adventures in Legal Land, this is one of those things, or some of those things. It was years before I got anyone at the IRS. Remember, domestic terrorists. These people are criminals. And I'll give you the details, I'll give you the evidence. It wasn't until 2004, and I had worked with dozens of people, and I've had people reporting to me. Every single time that they mailed in, when they do, they give you a notice of intent to levy, which is a notice of intent to steal your stuff. They have to before they steal anything, they have to give you 30 days to request a collection due process hearing. Okay? But if they do a notice of lien rather, then they file the notice of lien, and then they've got to give you, within 5 days, they have to send you a notification that you can request a collection due process hearing. It wasn't until 2004 that we actually got someone at the IRS to admit that it had been timely requested, which is why it's one of the few things that you do registered mail. These people, 2 agents, absolutely insisted they were going to throw us out of the building. They were going to throw us out because we were insisting that they were dead wrong and lying that we had not sent it timely. So we had produced the registered receipts. All she could do, what do we do? That's exactly what she did. So if you can't, it's a video feed. She shrugged and she looked at the other agent. I don't know. What do we do? We've never had. They had never actually done a hearing before because up to that point, the San Diego office had never given anybody a hearing because they never acknowledged that it was timely. So they say they're going to give you the equivalent where there's no appeal. Now, back then, having an appeal meant something because you could appeal it to the district court, not to the scumbag tyrants at the tax court where you are guaranteed to lose, regardless of your position, regardless of the evidence against them, even when the IRS admits they have no evidence. I'm looking at you, Michael Raiken. Even when they admit they have no evidence, you will still lose. You cannot win in the tax court. They are crooks. Yes, Michael Thornton, Michael Raiken, you're a bunch of crooks. And yes, we have the evidence. Michael Raiken admitted at least 3 times in writing to not having any evidence. This leads into what we happened to today. No evidence. And then Michael Thornton, even though the sacred law says that you're supposed to strike a presumption of correctness if it's not based on evidence, despite Michael Raiken admitting to not having any evidence, all he did was put somebody else's name on an assessment. That's all he did. Michael Thornton refused to strike the presumption of correctness. How dare we expect that these animals, these predators at the tax court do something fair? There's nothing fair about taxation. It is theft writ large. Hey, not bad. So yes, they are crooks. We'll get into a little bit more there because this continued to where a lien was placed a number of years later. And now we were supposed to have a hearing about that this morning. A collection due process hearing. Now, all it is a phone call with a really, really unprofessional domestic terrorist. So this morning, we had we got stuck dealing with a Cynthia Covey, or Covey. She's an IRS agent in Maryland. And no, I don't think for a moment, I'm sure that's a pseudonym because they lie about everything. They even lie about the names of these people. Hey, because when you're stealing for a living, you're going to make some enemies. a la Carl Drager, where you push people enough, you're going to make some enemies. So we were supposed to have a hearing this morning, a collection due process hearing. Now, the lies started fast and furious. They even started before the hearing. But now, if you go for a collection due process hearing, you can very well spell out what your position is. You can put it in plain English that we spoke to the agents admitted they have no evidence, and you can make your entire position a lack of evidence. Here we're talking about the crook who's now retired, Donaldson. I don't remember his first name. His last name was Donaldson. Admitted that he was asked directly, do any of the financial documents that you took you took without permission, do any of the banking information, any of the financials, does any of that prove a tax liability? No. He had no evidence of jurisdiction, because I mean, the truth is, they think a 200-year-old piece of paper gives them a right. I'll get to that. I got that. That's the word that she used this morning. So, let's get back to this so-called hearing. I may have missed my place, so I apologize for that. Right off the bat, they want to They want to turn around and say that your argument is frivolous. And they'll give you a document from the IRS. If you go to markstevens.net, I've talked about it many, many times. They'll say that the courts have long since declared frivolous your argument, and then you look in there, and not one of them is an issue of fact. Not one. Because by definition, frivolous is what the IRS is doing. They're arguing without evidence. They're the ones who are saying they don't have to prove it. That's frivolous. When you make an argument, and you have no evidence, and you turn around and you say, I don't need proof, but you need proof to disprove it, you're arguing, that's a frivolous argument. A frivolous argument doesn't need to be shown that it's frivolous other than to point it out. You don't have to demonstrate why, other than there's no evidence. It's illogical. But issues of fact are never frivolous because you have to demonstrate it. Frivolous is so lacking in merit, it requires no demonstration. That's the legal definition of frivolous. I'll get that posted in the video. It's not just that you're wrong. Not every argument that is incorrect is frivolous. Frivolous is lacking in good faith. Well, let's see. The IRS claims a 200-year-old written instrument. Nobody bothered to sign, and they're all dead now anyway. Wouldn't matter. Gives them a right to take your property. Now, sometimes they speak too soon. Yeah, they're trying to make it look good. Sometimes, like, I have an IRS call of shame where they said they had evidence, just like Covey did today. I'll get to that. So, already expect that they're not going to listen to what you're saying. The entire process is basically, unless you get to a human being, it's always just a literal rubber stamp. They just flat out deny everything as a matter of procedure. What do these people do all day? Smoke pot? Are they drinking? What do they do? They're not actually doing any kind of hearing. So they want to give us one over the phone. I mean, in person. They denied that. Then they try to claim that for me to assist, and I got plenty of evidence on markstevens.net, plenty of call of shames where I've done this, they want me to do a 2848, which is a power of attorney form that is restricted to only attorneys, CPAs, enrolled agents, and employees of the company being attacked. Well, none of that applies to me. So I can't sign it. But I don't need to do this. So you may be saying, well, how the hell do you speak on behalf of all these people with the IRS? Because you don't need a power of attorney unless the customer, the one under attack, is not going to be there. So with the Franchise Tax Board, with the State Department of Revenues and whatnot, I don't need that. Or I could do a power of attorney because you don't have to be a lawyer or a CPA. It's not restricted. You just have to file it, as a matter of procedure. So she didn't want me to be able to speak, which is a total lie. A third-party authorization. So keep that in mind. When I'm working with somebody or someone else is doing it and there's no power of attorney, as long as the customer under attack is with you, they can authorize the IRS to discuss your tax matters. That's why you can see 16 gigs worth of audio on markstevens.net where I'm talking directly to the IRS. So this idea that this is one of the many lies Cynthia threw out today. This dishonest crook. Dishonest. You don't need to do a 2848 or a power of attorney if the customer's right there and they give third-party authorization. So, oh man, this is supposed to be a hearing. Now, a hearing is supposed to have at least 3 parties. You're supposed to have the accuser, then you have the one answering the complaint, let's say the defendant or the respondent, and then you're supposed to have an independent decision maker. Now, when you look, as far as judges and administrative hearing officers, they're described as fair, impartial, independent decision makers. Even if you were to get under the Administrative Procedures Act, which the IRS will absolutely not allow to be used. They have to do their own in-house slaughter. And yes, the tax court is in-house. They're all former IRS attorneys, district counsel. So, we start out, and I'm asking, who is here representing the IRS's side? And she said she was. I said, you're representing the IRS's position. Yes. Wow. No shame. It's not a hearing. Someone has to be there with the IRS's position and the evidence to support their claims. And then we're there to defend against that and to show where it's false. That's what you do at a hearing. You present evidence, you spread arguments, and then you have witnesses. That's not what they do here. So even in the name itself, collection, due process, hearing, lie. No due process because they're lying through their teeth from the very start. From the very start, these damn people. Are they really? Yeah, they're people. They're just predators. So we know right off the bat, it's not a hearing. And I even had to say, you're lying. Don't say that this phone call is a hearing because it's not. It's a phone call. So she tried to say she wasn't lying and that we could discuss certain issues. She made it absolutely clear that we could not discuss liability. So imagine that. They're claiming that they have a legitimate lien against you. But you cannot question the validity of the actual lien as far as the liability. Does that sound like a hearing to anybody? We're saying you owe this money. We're going to have a hearing. You can't decide. You cannot challenge whether you owe you owe it. I'm not making it up. Anybody who's gone through a collection due process hearing can confirm this. And unfortunately, we have another one to add to the pile of evidence of just how criminal these people really are. She said that the IRS had a right to file the notice of tax lien. A right. So I asked her, do you have any evidence before you proving that there was any jurisdiction to issue the lien and that you had a right to issue it against my client? The question was about evidence. She said, and this I quote, absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. So, despite her crap about me not being able to speak, I got her to admit we could discuss jurisdiction because she answered the question. This is no different than when you ask a cop this on cross-examination. Got evidence of jurisdiction, a tough guy? Hell yeah. Now, long-time listeners to the show know where we're going to go with this. This is a common... Look, when we're using the Socratic method and we're bringing out contradictions and we're bringing out that somebody doesn't know what the hell they're talking about, they're just plain full of crap. You've got to get an admission to a general statement so that you know what their position is. And then you can start going and pulling it apart. She was absolutely certain about that. I mean, absolutely yes. She was absolutely certain that there was evidence. Evidence, not legal citations. There was evidence of jurisdiction and that they had a right to file a notice of lien against my client. A right. Absolutely yes that there was evidence. Yes, I'm belaboring the point because it's so important and because it shows just how dishonest these people are. It was not true. Well, Mark, did you ask her for the evidence? Did she provide? I'm sure she would have provided it. She's an IRS agent. They're so honest. Well, I did. And that's where she really put up some resistance. Because what is the basis of their jurisdiction? What is the basis of everything that they do? The Constitution. Yeah, I know. Under the Constitution is a gun. I know. She doesn't want to admit that right just yet. But yes, underneath that 200-year-old piece of paper is a gun. And there's a psychopath willing to pick it up and get you to dance. So Ms. Covey was then asked, so your position is that there is evidence proving the Constitution applies to my client. And that's where all hell broke loose. She said she's not going to listen to any challenge to the Constitution. Can anybody say straw man? Because that's what that is. If somebody says that they have evidence of X, Y, Z, and you ask them for that evidence, or just to confirm their position, it's not a challenge to it. See, a challenge to the Constitution would be, is it constitutional, or their law is constitutional? That's a constitutional challenge. Are their actions constitutional? And the thing is, we're in a due process hearing. So whether their actions violate due process is supposed to be within the purview of a collection due process hearing. She even mentioned that she doesn't see that anyone's rights were violated. So even the idea that we couldn't challenge constitutionality of their actions is dead wrong and a lie. Why? It's right in the name, collection due process hearing. Hey. And it was something she said was within the purview of the hearing, that she had looked and she didn't see any evidence that anyone's rights were violated. But how dare you even try to question the great and powerful IRS? You see, look, forcing people to pay you means never having to have any evidence. It means never having to be fair. And it damn sure doesn't mean having to answer any questions. I asked her a straight-out question. She said absolutely she had evidence. What did she do from that point? She absolutely will not shut the hell up and actually let me ask a question, a complete question, and then answer it. It was ridiculous. At one point, she actually said, well, then why are you calling? If you don't like what I'm doing, why did you call me? I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, what are you, 5? Well, are you actually a child? No adult would actually say that. In the context of a hearing, when they're throwing up a roadblock, turn around and say, why did you call me? Oh, I don't know, because you're a bunch of sick people, that you're trying to steal my property, and I'm trying to do something to expose you as the crook that you are, you dishonest piece of filth? I didn't call you because I wanted to. You're trying to steal my stuff. Oh, I couldn't believe it. I had to point out, adults will let other adults speak. They don't interrupt them. And you wanted yes or no answers to your questions, but you won't extend us that same courtesy. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, I'm going to do what I can to find some information on this woman. See, I know she's using a pseudonym, but they don't always do that. I was able to get Sophie Tittle, and I did get her picture, and it was her, confirmed by her daughter. That it was her. I got that. That was right. And Joseph Teddy. So maybe we'll be able to get some pictures so people can see what this woman looks like and bring her out from obscurity so that people can see the monster and the cog in the criminal organization that she is in. So I didn't feel I felt bad that this girl's parents died, tragically like that. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Sophie Tittle was a crook. Just as dishonest as this damn Covey. If you turn around and you say absolutely yes, that you have evidence of jurisdiction, then fairness and due process dictates that you provide that. And that's not what she did. All she did was like a 12-year-old child is hang up the phone. And I'll tell you, this is what I did. They're going to want to make it look good. So they'll just start going off and they'll start reading something that they're going to have a recording to try to show that they provided due process, that we're the problem. And I just spoke over it. And I kept on repeating, I will not allow you to have a good recording of this. I will not allow you to have okay? And that's what I suggest when they start reading from something, because they're doing it just for appearances. Talk over them and tell them what they're doing and ruin the recording. At least that's why I was doing it. Don't let them get a good recording of that. But bottom line here is we're talking about a situation where all the agent did, and this is exactly what we would talk. We didn't even get a chance to get to this today. It's part of the record already, though. All they did, because they could not get anything from the husband. I have the 6 years posted on markstevens.net. All they did was take the husband's name off and put the wife's name on. Admittedly, have no evidence of a work history. Zero. They're actually targeting somebody who hasn't worked in over 25 years. They have absolutely no evidence this is her money. Absolutely none. None of it makes a difference to these people. None of it makes a difference. Why? Because the truth doesn't mean anything. This is about taking our money. It's about stealing from us. And this is another example of why we should structure our lives and do things without, so that we don't have reporting, so that we don't have professional licenses, so we could do what we can to avoid these terrorists. Yes, I am advocating that people structure things in a way and not pay taxes, because there's not a shred of evidence to show that anybody owes. Yes, I know, but you can go to prison. I know. That's not evidence that you owe in the first place. That's such a tired argument. It's you have to pay. They'll put you in prison. Well, yeah, you have to pay the the Gaudis, the Capones. They'll kill you. That doesn't mean you are obligated to pay them. So what happened this morning. Just that's why it's so ironic to see people call government having these hearings, and they had that Alabama predator, Jeff Sessions. I get a guilty pleasure out of watching him evade their questions, because that's exactly what they do to us. And for them to then turn it around and to see Jeff Sessions or some of these other bureaucrats do the same thing to them. Now, how do you like it? How do you like hearing a narrative instead of a yes or no to a very simple question? So don't think for a second that if you request a collection due process hearing that you're going to get an actual hearing, because you're not. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why, like the Franchise Tax Board, they do in-house slaughters of their victims. They don't send them out to the administrative Office of Administrative Law. They don't allow it to be done under the Administrative Procedures Act, whether it's state or federal. And the reason for that is there is some semblance of a hearing. And to this day, we've never been able to get a hearing, let's say with the Franchise Tax Board, before the Administrative Law Office. Their laws require that if they do in-house hearings, they have to conform to the Administrative Procedures Act. So here are the rules. Do it in-house. Stick to the rules. In the rules in California, and at the federal level, I'm pretty sure it's the same at the federal level as it is in California. They're adversarial. They're adversarial. So what that means is you're supposed to have a hearing officer who's not working for the agency. Now, I know they still work for the state, but if you were to get the Franchise Tax Board into the Office of Administrative Law, it's the guy making the decision doesn't work for the Franchise Tax Board. At least you've got some distance. Adversarial. Not only is it adversarial, it must be evidentiary. And I can tell you, anybody who's done a collection due process hearing, anybody who's done a protest hearing with the Franchise Tax Board will tell you the same thing. They are not adversarial, and they are not evidential or evidentiary. The only thing this woman wanted to talk about today was a payment program. How are you going to pay for this? It's in the millions, by the way. It's even if the system was valid, the assessment is 1,000 times or 10,000 times more than it would be. It's millions and millions and millions. It's really ridiculous. How anybody could have taken that seriously is just millions and millions of dollars. It's crazy. So, the last thing they want to do is get a witness on the stand. Because we know from this same case in Maryland, if you go, the entire hearing is at markstevens.net, and I did remember the agent's name is Sion. S-I-O-N. Sion. Admitted to not having any evidence. Admitted it! Not only did she admit to not having any evidence, she admitted to not being qualified to make the assessment. Could you imagine a police officer getting on the stand, under oath, and saying, yes, I wrote the ticket, but I wasn't qualified to write the ticket? And the judge, I'm gonna affirm it anyway. Yeah, because forcing people to pay you means never having to have the facts and evidence on your side. Never having to be fair. Just rubber stamp. That's why there was a link that I can't believe I didn't get a chance to copy it. That there were some senators that were pissed off at companies like AT&T for having binding arbitration because they say it's not fair. It's too one-sided. It's rigged in favor of AT&T. I'm like, are you kidding me? Have you ever gone to traffic court? Have you ever gone to the tax court, that cesspool? 100% of the time the IRS prevails. If not only 99%. Gosh, you want to see rigged? Go to an IRS hearing. Go to federal court where they lie through their teeth. Let's go through this again, everybody. It's not, it needs to be repeated because it keeps coming up, like I did in the last video. They lie to you and say, jurisdiction is a pure issue of law. Pure issue of law. And then they'll turn around and they'll say the only thing they have to show is your physical location. Bill testified to that. Bill from the Twin Mountain Country Store. How many other people have testified that? They just have to show that you're here. That's why they say it's a trial issue. They have to show where you physically were. Issues of law are not trial issues. Issues of fact are. So again, because we keep getting those stupid criticisms, and when someone says something to you, so you don't even have to prove my physical location to say it is jurisdiction. The moment they admit or say that your physical location, they're admitting it's not a pure issue of law. Why? Because it's an application. Application is never a theoretical issue of law. But again, they have the guns. And that's what it comes down to. So at least here, what they've done, there's not much there's really nothing they can do beyond this one. There's a lien, whatever. They can't get anything. So that's that. But there's no resolution. Yes, we can do, and I think someone may have mentioned a TIGNA complaint. Yeah, we'll do a TIGNA complaint. She lied through her teeth. But these we don't know if any of these complaints have ever gone anywhere. And why would they go after an agent who's only going and doing standard operating procedure anyway? Did you say it was frivolous? Yep. Did you do the 2848 and refuse to let that idiot Marc Stevens talk? Yep, did it. Did you talk over them incessantly and never shut the hell up? Did it. Did you hang up on them? Got it. That's due process. Thanks for doing the due process. You did your job. They don't give a damn. I'm not saying that you should necessarily file a request for a collection due process hearing, because at the very least, you're slowing them down. And just for full disclosure, I'm not saying that what you're filing is just to slow them down or it's just for purposes of delay. But you're gathering evidence to use against them. By the time you're getting to this point, you should have some of the agent's testimony to use against them. And in this situation, both agents, state and federal, don't even work for the agencies anymore. So, at least that's good. But the position does have merit. It's not frivolous. They need evidence. Territorial jurisdiction is based on territory. It's not a pure issue of law. And they're lying to you otherwise. Anyone who says that is lying to you. It's a pure issue of law. It doesn't require evidence, except for your physical location. But that's it. How can people not see through this crap? I mean, seriously, how could you not see through? How can people continue to do that unless they have a vested interest in the system? It's not going to die. People are going to continue lying, saying jurisdiction's a pure issue of law requiring no evidence. And then when you nail them, well, all they got to do is show your physical location. That's it. That's it. Yeah, right. Oh, and it's a trial issue, but you're not allowed to question any of the witnesses on it. Come on. If you're going to do it registered mail, because they still could deny that you got it in time, that you sent it in time, and that's absolute proof. And see, the difference with registered mail is that is signed for every single step of the way, unlike certified. Certified, if there is a natural disaster or something, and it doesn't get there until after the 30 days, you're on the hook for that. You send it registered, it's considered served or arrived the day you give it to the post service. We had the IRS try to pull this crap in the court years and years ago trying to say an appeal wasn't filed timely. And this is because I filed it after September 11th. But it went registered mail. But it did not get to the D.C. post office because of the anthrax attack until way, way past the deadline. And they tried to put that on us. No. That went registered mail for a purpose. And just know they're going to pull this crap. And the best we can do is just get the evidence on them to show how criminal they are. That's really the best that we can do. And if we can get their information and make it public, I'm not saying their home address or anything like that. I'm talking about getting a picture of them and where they work so that we can expose them, go on other radio shows, expose them, put it on YouTube. When someone goes and types in, if you go in and you type in Joseph Teddy IRS, my video will come up, or my article in Google will come up. So you can see that. Sophie Tittle, the same thing. Also, James Cox and Richard Noble. So if their family or they are searching for them, when they're Googling themselves, they can find the videos that we've done. And so this Cynthia Covey, hopefully we can get a picture of her so the world can see this crook. Because they love having anonymity. So anything we can do to shine a light on these cockroaches, good. I don't know. Should I compare them to cockroaches, though? I mean, do roaches have a legitimate biological function in the circle of life and whatnot? I don't know. All right, you know what? I'm gonna call it quits right there. I'll get the video and everything up by tomorrow. We should have a live broadcast for Saturday, the LRN broadcast. So definitely check that out. So if you didn't get a chance to call in today, which you had plenty of time, but if you didn't get a chance to, you can always call. Then remember, we've got the what do we got going on? Oh, the Jackalope Freedom Fest 2017, July 31st to August 6th. It's going to be Northeast Arizona. I'll have to get that linked up, but it's just look up Jack Fest, Arizona, or the Jackalope Freedom Festival, and you can get information for that. I will be there on the Saturday only, but I will be there, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. Okay. Yeah, this has been episode 23 of The Big Show, live here on Wednesdays. And the website, of course, is markstevens.net. And till next time, salud.